Hi, everyone. Hope everyone is good. Selena Moreno's aunt.
Welcome, Ms. Leggett.
Thank you.
We'll be starting momentarily, everyone, okay?
Mrs. Hicks, you're free to begin.
Okay, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to all of you. My name is Cynthia Hicks, and I'm a member of the Bridge to Success Academy team. I'm excited to have the opportunity to work with A. Philip Randolph, Westside, and St. Clair, Evans Academy. Our theme this year is Reignite. As we move forward from the pandemic, it is my hope that we can reignite the flames for our students and get them excited to learn, grow, and achieve. I want your students to have new life and a strong energy to do well in everything that they set out to achieve. We have a wonderful program planned this evening for you so that you can learn, become inspired, and then we will close out with celebrating our students and their achievements. So we have two speakers from Duval County Public Schools that are going to talk about the FAST assessment. They're going to tell you what you need to know, the key things about it. We have Ms. Brandy Berry, who is the Director of K through 12 ELA Reading. And we have Ms. Emily Collins, who's the Supervisor for 6th through 12th grade mathematics. So those are the two speakers that we're going to start with this evening. So I'm not sure if Ms. Berry would like to go first.
I'd be happy to. I hope everybody is doing well this evening. All right, can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. So feel free to ask questions as I go along. I'll be happy to answer questions during or at the end of the information that we're going to share about the Florida Assessment of Student Thinking, which is our new assessment for ELA, which includes both the reading and the writing assessments that students will take this year. This is in conjunction with our new state standards that are being implemented for the first time as well. Let's start with the reading assessment. We have a big change in how the state is assessing our students this year, in that they will take 3 assessments during the year. The state has named these assessments PMs, which stands for performance measure. So we're looking, progress monitoring. So we have progress monitoring 1, 2, and 3. And if your child started the school year in August, he or she has already taken PM1, because the dates for that assessment were August 15th through September 30th. And that assessment was covering all of the new standards for your child's grade level, which, as we all know, they had not received much instruction for them. So it's considered a baseline. And if students didn't know the information on the assessment, that's okay, because it's the beginning of the year. When they take PM2 from December 5th through January 27th, again, this progress monitoring assessment will cover all of their grade level benchmarks. And we should start to see growth because students have now had a half year of instruction. And then in the spring, starting on May 1st, students will take PMA 3. This is the high accountability assessment starting in grade 3 and going through grade 10. This is the one that counts. It is how we measure students' performance and their mastery of the new state benchmarks. If you have a 3rd grader, this is the assessment that determines whether or not they're promoted to 4th grade. And if you have a 10th grader, this is the assessment that is required for graduation. Students have to score a level 3 or higher in order for it to count towards their graduation. The Reading Fast assessment covers all of the reading benchmarks for your students' grade level. And you can see that those are broken into 3 categories listed on the screen for you. And on the right-hand side, you can see the weight that each category carries on the assessment. You can see that whether we're looking at prose, which is stories, and poetry, or informational text, those are going to carry roughly half, maybe a little more, depending on which questions they get, of the assessment. And then the 3rd category, reading across genres and vocabulary, has students reading multiple texts. So it could be a story and an informational text. It could be 2 stories or 2 informational texts and comparing them. Notice that I put in red, understanding rhetoric, and I put big deal. If you have a middle school student, this is huge because we have not had rhetoric in our middle school grade level standards before. It used to start in 9th grade. Starting this year, rhetoric is being taught in 6th grade. And our understanding is that it will be heavily tested on the state assessment. So something that our teachers are really focused on, and we want our students to be working on that as well. At the bottom, you can see that we expect students to answer between 36 and 40 questions across all 3 categories. Starting this year, it is a computer-based assessment in all grade levels 3 through 10. For grades 3 through 6, that's new. 3 through 6 used to have printed paper assessments. It's also considered an adaptive assessment, meaning that as students are getting questions correct, the questions get harder. And as they start to answer incorrectly, the questions will start to get easier. This actually allows the assessment to narrow in on a student's level of mastery faster than a paper test would, where they have to answer way more questions in order to get that same leveling result. If you have a student who has an IEP, there are accommodations available on the fast reading assessment. Because it is a computer-based assessment, one of the IEP accommodations can be that your student takes a paper-based version of the test. If that is the best option for your student, there are options to have the test printed in regular sized print, in larger print, Braille, or even 1 question per page. If your student is going to take it as a computer-based assessment, there is an option to mask the answers, or in some cases, students have a text-to-speech accommodation. If you have an IEP for your student and you haven't spoken with his or her teachers yet this year about what accommodations would be best for your student on FAST, I highly encourage you to schedule that meeting with your child's teacher so you can talk about that and make any adjustments to their IEP accommodations now. Those accommodations need to be in place before the spring. One of the big changes from FSA to FAST is that in the past, it took students 2 days to take the reading test. With FAST, it's shorter because it's adaptive. And so it'll be 1 session on 1 day. So we're happy about the shortened length of the assessment. As you can see in the chart, PM1 and PM2 take about 90 minutes for the students, and PM3 is a little bit longer at 120 minutes because there are some field test items in the assessment. They won't count towards your child's score, but the state needs the data on how they do in order to use that question on a future FAST assessment. We were informed by the state just within the last week that if a student isn't finished at the end of this recommended time frame, they can continue their assessment and have as much time as they need to complete it, as long as they complete it the day that they started. We're not able to carry the assessment over to a second day. I wanted to show you what this looks like. The State Department has provided examples of what this will look like as a computer-based assessment. This came from an 8th grade practice test, and I'll share the link with you if you want to go in and see what your child's grade level looks like. But you can see that the students will see the text on one side of the screen and the question on the other. And they will have some annotating tools so they could highlight as they're reading, if that's a helpful strategy for them. This is just a straight up multiple choice question, one that we all probably remember from when we were in school. But there are some other styles to the questions that we want the students to know and be familiar with how to complete them. This one has a part A question that the student answers like a multiple choice, but then in part B, they have to prove their answer. So they have to find the evidence that backs up what answer they think is correct in part A. The students do have to get both parts correct in order for them to have a credit for that correct answer. This is a multi-select question. Notice that it has 5 answers instead of 4. And the key thing that students have to notice is that it says select 2 poetic devices. So in this question, students must get both answers correct in order to receive credit for the question. And then the fanciest of them all is the table match. So students have to read across each row and match it with the correct column based on what the question is asking the students to think about. So in this one, we're trying to represent the hero archetype, and we have to determine, did it happen in the first passage they read, the second passage they read, or was it in both passages? Students have to get all 3 rows correct in order to get credit for a correct answer. So as you can see, questions have changed a lot since some of us were in school. The good news is we provide ample opportunities for your students to engage with all these different question types so that there are no surprises for them when they get to the FAST assessment. They will be old pros at it by the time they take PM3. Because this is the first year that students are taking FAST, the state has a lot of work to do on their end to create the new scoring systems for FAST. So in this first year, they will actually link student scores back to the FSA reporting score scales that you are accustomed to if you've had a child take the FSA in the past. So you'll be very familiar with how those reports come out. Your student will receive a scale score, an achievement level, and after the entire testing window closes, you'll also receive a percentile rank. Your child's teachers will be able to see their results by benchmark, which is what the new name for our standards, so that they can plan instruction for individual students as well as an entire class. So where do you get your results? Families can access the results to PM1 right now because that portal or that assessment window closed back in September. So you can go to, and this is linked, and I'll be happy to share this with Ms. Hicks Brown if you would like to access the links in the presentation. You can go to this first linked website URL right here, and it'll take you to the portal where you can log in. You need some information from your student's school in order to access the portal. They have a 6-digit access code. that they can share with you. And then you need your student's date of birth and his or her first name to log in. I also included the link here for you to go see those sample questions if you'd like to get an idea of your child's grade level and what the assessment could look like when they take it both in December, January, and again in May. In addition to taking the reading test, we also have a writing test. This is specific to grades 4 through 10, and this assessment will happen only one time a year in April. It is also computer-based, so keyboarding skills become very important. Students are going to need to know how to type in order to get their essay into the computers. If your student has an IEP that allows for them to have a paper option, they can write their essay if that's appropriate. This will look very, very similar to what we saw in FSA as far as the writing assessment. Students will be given 2 passages to read that are on the same topic but present opposing views. And then students are given a prompt that they are to respond to using information from both of those passages plus their own ideas. This year, students can get one of 2 genres for their writing prompt. They can get argumentative, where they are trying to persuade you to do something, or it can be expository, where they are pulling together information and informing their reader. Next year, the state is adding a 3rd genre, which is narrative, where students will actually be able to tell a story. So we're looking forward to that. We do have new writing rubrics. I have linked those there for you in the PowerPoint. And new to FAST is your student will get a separate score for writing instead of having the writing score embedded with the reading score. Because this is the first year, it is considered a field test year, and only 50% of students across the state will be selected to take the writing test. The other 50% of students will not take it until the spring of 2024. You can see here that we have a lot of benchmarks that are covered on the writing assessment. The specific writing benchmarks are at the top. And then you'll notice that the reading benchmarks show up again because the students have to read those 2 passages before they can synthesize that information and pull it together into their essay. And then the ELA expectations at the bottom are the things that all good readers and writers do all the time. Things like citing evidence to support their answers or making inferences and using the appropriate tone and voice when they're communicating with their readers.
Is she a teacher?
Is she a teacher?
So let me stop there. Do we have any questions about either the reading or the writing assessment that I could answer for you before I hand this over to Ms. Collins?
It's hard.
Yes, I do have a question. Let me just make sure that I mute everyone for a second, though. Thank you so much, Ms. Berry, for that wonderful information. But parents, I'm going to speak to you as a former parent, and I'm going to speak to you as a former school board member for Duval County Public Schools. The one thing that I do know is that an informed parent is an empowered parent. You have got to empower yourselves. This test, while it may sound, a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, my child does not have to take, the FCAT anymore or whatever. However, there is something that you need to understand about this test. This test will determine if your child is proficient. Not basically if your child is gaining, but if your child is proficient, which means that there is a level of proficiency. If this is the level of proficiency, it doesn't matter if your child is almost there, your child has to be there. So I suggest, parents, that you really get all of the information. We'll pull this information for you that Ms. Berry had, because you need to go back and you need to ask questions. For instance, Ms. Berry talked about rhetoric being on the test. If you don't know what that means, then it's going to be hard for you to help your child. So we want you to make sure that you understand all of what is being said, all of what is happening, and where it is that you can go in and take a look at the sample questions, take a look at the results. Please, 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 parents, please do that. Proficiency does not equate to almost proficient. Proficiency means you are at that mark. Third grade, if you're not at that mark, that child is not going to the next grade level. And that is, for each of these. So parents, I'm just asking you, be informed so that you can be empowered. Thank you again, Ms. Bear. I'll turn it over to Ms. Hicks Brown. I know that she wants to call on the next person if there's no one else that has a question.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your comments, Ms. Burney. That was very good. And thank you so much for your presentation, Ms. Berry. That was very informative.
Thank you. If parents have any questions, their number one, of course, person to reach out to is their student's teacher. But if they need my assistance, I am available as well. I'll put my email in the chat in case anybody wants to jot it down. I'm always happy to support families as they're learning these new standards and the new assessment.
Thank you. Next, we will have Ms. Emily Collins. She's the supervisor for 6th through 12th grade mathematics.
All right, good afternoon or good evening, I should say, everyone. So Dr. Berry did a wonderful job. I can actually cut down some of my presentation. You will see some of the overlap that will occur with our Florida Assessment of Student Thinking, and that's a good thing. Okay, so, but a couple of differences, I would say, between our ELA counterparts and mathematics. So hopefully I'll give you a little bit of an overview and leave you with some work. If you have your phones, please take those out. I do have some QR codes that are embedded in some of the slides that will be so very important for you to have. So the very first thing, I always like to start just to give you a guide, a vision of what occurred for the beginning of this school year. Our students in mathematics, the entire kindergarten through 12th grade, I like to say, we have had new state standards, and then we have what we call are the specific benchmarks that are measurable. And so one of the things that the state of Florida has done, and this is what we love about it, the benchmarks, they are very clear. They're clear enough that you as a parent, as well as a student or your teacher or any of our stakeholders, you're able to pick up this particular, and this is the example I'm giving you here, is the state standards, which includes those benchmarks. But any of our stakeholders can pick up those particular benchmarks and you can read them and understand them. So that was a big design in the rewrite process for our Florida standards, just to make sure when our students read it, when our teachers read it, when our parents read those benchmarks, everyone is able to understand the expectation of what it is to meet and help your student to grow in mathematics. So some of the new things that your students are working with today, this year, they will have the benchmark language. And I've given you an example here. This is our 8th grade. GR stands for our geometric reasoning standard. And this is and I'll just break it down, but this is benchmark. Our measurable one is GR 1.1. And the benchmark language just says apply the Pythagorean theorem to solve mathematical and real world problems involving unknown side lengths in right triangles. So there was a big shift. There was a big shift in how we want our students to think and work with problems and understand that procedural fluency by the time they leave middle school. So you'll notice with a lot of the benchmark expectations, it's not just solve a mathematical problem, it's solve both a mathematical and a real world problem. We want to be able to have a better transition to what we call are these gateway courses so that we can get more of our struggling learners in college, right? So we want to prepare them for a college and career success. Some additional things that you would see with the benchmarks are these clarifications, and it specifically tells you these are some things instructionally that our teachers are preparing to make sure in their instructional delivery, they're preparing students in their understanding of meeting this benchmark by making sure they're including certain one of these clarifications. And then we have some examples in those things there. Now, I showed you this progression of Florida best standards for mathematics because this is my favorite. One of the things I love about it, I am able, at least with 5 of our strands. So we call these strands our number sense and operations and our fractions and algebraic reasoning. But at least with 5 of these, I am able to see a progression all the way from kindergarten to 12th grade. And that I love, because what happens is, as a teacher, as a parent, I am able to look, if I have a struggling learner, I can look at any type of gaps that I may think my student may have had, and I can go back to that grade level to see if we can close that gap. And so we have a lot of that supplemental material that's available in order to support our learners in the classroom for this year. So I know I'm here to talk about testings, and we're going to get straight to that. So one of the big things here is another QR code, but you're welcome to, and we'll get you the links at the end of the presentation. But I always ask parents, teachers, every stakeholder that we have, one of the first places, and our district does a really great job of updating all of us with the information for our state testing expectations. But I always like to tell teachers to go to fldoe.org. Is one of the first places that you can stop in order to get the culmination of information that you need for your student. So this particular site right here, I know Dr. Barry went over some of this, is very similar, but you're going to find all of your ELA, your math, as well as your science or social studies. I want to just make sure you know all of the curriculum is located within the Florida Department of Education's website. But as you go here, you're going to get the latest and greatest information. So there are times that you will have updates here, and it's readily available. You don't have to wait for anyone to send it out to you. You can go right here as a parent and look for the information that's here. So let me tell you a little bit about what's in this particular site. One of the things that you're going to pull up, and our teachers look at it, our principals, our building leaders, they look at this. Our students, if you're in algebra and geometry, for example, this is what we call as a test design summary. So this gives me the specific information to say, hey, you know what, if you're in algebra is going to be broken up into really 3 different sections that makes up that particular best end of course. So I can say that expressions, functions, and data analysis, it's about 31 to 38% of that test. Okay, linear relationships is again about 31 to 38%, as well as nonlinear relationships. So we can see it's almost split into 3 ways evenly. But at the very bottom there, you can see that there's a total of 43 benchmarks. Now, I want you to keep that in mind as we get to the total number of questions that you'll have on that best end of course. And then you're able, of course, to see geometry. Geometry will give you a similar pattern as to how it breaks down. So as you're working with your student and you're getting feedback, you want to make sure if you're looking at your student and they're doing a really good job with expressions, functions, and data analysis, you know, that's a third of that test already. So really have your teachers as well as your student be able to track the progress that is being made, especially as we're taking these particular assessments. Now, I do want you to understand with the Algebra 1 and geometry, we do not take the state PM, okay? So we don't have the 3 times a year test as our students that are in kindergarten through 8th grade, I like to say, I believe it starts in kindergarten, but our 6th through 8th grade will take that FAST PM, And so they have that 3 times a year, as Dr. Berry was stating a little bit earlier. But with our Algebra 1 and geometry students, they are not required, at least for this year, they are not required to take that state PM. What they do have, they have what we call as a district PMA. So in just a few, your students, even the window opens next week, as a matter of fact. So hopefully they've been preparing, but the district PMA will give your students some information, and it'll give them some feedback just to see if they understand from August all the way into the current date, what have they learned so far within their current course. So very important that that is understood there. Now, I do want to go over just one item type. I'm not going to go over a lot. I think Dr. Berry covered that, but our graphic display, we like to call this the grid response. Our grid response is not like it used to be, not like what you'll see on the SAT. It's not just a student filling in, writing the number in and then bubbling in the number right up under there. That's a totally different type of grid. So that is one update that you'll see with the new best end of course, as well as the fast PM. With the grid, they're going to ask for an action to be done by the student. So if it's plotting a line, a point, and it's drawing a line, or if it's drawing a triangle, or if it's doing a reflection, there are some things, especially it's a great tool for use in geometry, but this is something new this year for your child. And hopefully your child has had a chance to do this in the classroom as they're working with some of the new curriculum resources that we have. When the teachers assign those practice problems and they're going over that in class, they actually have a chance to practice some of the item types that are available on the assessments themselves. So I see in the chat, I think it's getting up there a little bit, so I'm gonna stop in just a second. As we dig a little bit further into the test design summary, I do want you to look right here in this area. If I'm looking at our grades 6 through 8, the number of items, they're 36 to 40 items. And again, you know, some of those would be field test items, but they're just 36 to 40 items. And I think those are the smallest number of items we've had in a while. So we're asking, especially with the 6 through 8, parents, students, do your diligence. And I want you to write down your scores. I want you to write down what you had in each of those, especially if you took that PM1, how did you perform? Look at the benchmarks. And then when you take that PM2, I still want you to get those results. How did you perform on that? Look at those benchmarks, see if you see a difference. I want to see growth over time. Okay, so just make sure that you're tracking it on some type of paper. Right. And so the second area here, of course, Algebra 1 and geometry has 45 to 50 number of items. And again, that is a reduced amount as well. So when they take the best end of course at the end of the year for algebra and geometry, that is the number of items that you could expect. Now, the second thing is, and we talked about this a little bit, but up to 100 minutes, just think about that as they're completing that fast. And again, as Dr. Berry said, it is that one day that they are asked to complete the assessment itself. But I do want students to know they can take their time and be able to use all of the minutes that's available to them. I know it's a small amount of test questions, but always tell students, take their time, mark it if they need to come back to it. Our algebra and geometry a little bit longer, 160 minutes. So very important. I tell students if they need additional time, hey, continue working up to the length of a typical school day. Okay, that is always available for students to do it. Some students may take it and they go to lunch and then they come back, but totally understand, be able to be disciplined in knowing yourself as a learner. Know when you need to take a break and know when you need to skip a question and come back to it. Those things, there are a lot of strategies that we can use from there. And then the very last thing, this is the newest thing. Our sixth graders, this is the first time they've ever had a chance to use calculators. And so now our sixth graders are able to use a 4-function calculator. Okay, so there are some now approved calculators, I believe, that the state has put on the website. Some of our schools will actually go out to purchase the calculators for use. So parents, it's a great time to shop right now. If you can grab your child a calculator, just to make sure that they have that handy. And the important thing is how to use the calculator, when and how to use the calculator. Calculator, and I'll give you an example. You take an SAT, you can answer every last question on the SAT without a calculator. So I want you to understand, calculator speeds up our processing time for some of our mathematical problems, right? So just understand that if you know how to efficiently and strategically use a calculator, it is to your benefit. Now, 7th, 8th, Algebra 1 and geometry, we will have the scientific calculator that is available for you to use. And let me look in the chat. Okay, it's getting there. Make sure if I have any questions. Is that for me? Maybe not. Okay. So here's an example of the calculator. So if it's 7th, 8th, Algebra 1, geometry, parents, again, it is right around shopping time, day after Thanksgiving. I think they'll have a great deal on this. I hope, maybe. I'm not sure, but this TI-30XA, please grab your child one of these. And again, the important thing is that they understand how to use it. We don't, and please stick with this model. I know there's a couple other TI-30X, and those are some online virtual, and it has a different functionality, but it's not approved by the state. But this model right here that you see is approved, and it's good to have in the classroom for your students. But you can always go to the FAST.org website to get updates on the calculators. Notice I always send you to the FLDOE website because it was just updated November the 8th. So updates occur quite often. It's a new year, it's a fluid year. And so we keep you informed as best we can. So just a reminder. Yes.
I'm so sorry. Mr. Burris has come back in, I believe. He was in an accident, so I really am gonna need to let him speak as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was taking notes. I was learning.
Yeah, let me close. And listen, I'm going to be real quick there. Let me close it out because this is really simple. And if any questions, I go from there. We've already been reminded of the PM 1, 2, and 3. Dr. Berry talked about that. End of course for algebra geometry is in May as well. Talked about that a little bit. And so and I'll just give the link to this. I'll put it in the chat for everyone. But when you go to that testing site, you go right here to FAST, you click on FAST, and then you'll be able to go to that FAST portal for students and families. Okay. This is where you want to go, parents. This is where you want to get the information to log in, get the scores, look at sample tests, and get the information that you need so that your child is prepared. Algebra geometry, I don't want to leave you out, very important. If you took the class in 9th grader, or maybe you're going to 10th, 8th grader, you took the class, you didn't pass the class, that's okay, because you can still take the test for geometry as well as any of these that are on the screen right here to get a concordant score is what we call it for graduation purposes. Okay.
Thank you
There's
so
always
much, Ms. Collins. Thank
All right.
you.
No problem.
We appreciate you. If you can make sure that you send that information in the chat, we'll make sure that everyone that's on this call has that pertinent information. Okay.
Got it. All right. Thanks so much.
Appreciate
and throw in the chat
you.
if you have any questions.
Perfect.
All right.
Well, without further ado, I really would love to introduce Mr. Rodney Burris. And he is one of the nation's top leaders in understanding human potential and inspiring greatness. He's an international speaker. He's a youth advocate, a professional development coach, and he has published many, many books. He can help people to really realize how to become different and better than their circumstances. And he has an amazing background, and I'm not going to tell you about his background. I've had the pleasure of speaking with him. I feel like he can share more about his background than I can, and he can make it so much more personal. He's got a great story. And I just want you to sit back, relax, and if he's willing, because Mr. Burris, I'm even amazed that you are on this call. Mr.
okay.
Burris called me about 35, 40 minutes ago and said he was in an accident. So I told him he did not need to come on, but he said, I insist, that I come on. So I celebrate you just for that, for your commitment to be on this call. So thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Good afternoon, everybody. Good evening. It is early evening. I am in Baltimore, Maryland. It is really cold, but I grew up in Riverside. Actually, I grew up in a lot of places around Jacksonville. And so I want to share a little bit about that. I want to talk to the parents. I know we got some young people here. My wife and I have 5 children. I had this whole big presentation set for you guys. I was like 10 minutes away from my office, got rear-ended, right? Had a bunch of the other woman actually went away in the back of a medical vehicle. She had somewhat of a panic attack. So, we sent her love and prayers and all that good stuff. Fortunately, I feel fine. I don't know, maybe it's because of you guys. I was looking forward to seeing you and I'm okay. But I spent a good bit of my time in Jacksonville, growing up, although I was originally from right here in Baltimore. And I got to Florida, and I had kind of like a bumpy way at it, right? I wish there was programs like this that my mother, as a single parent, could have kind of been a part of, gotten us a part of, because the support system, from what I understand, I don't know every single bit about the program, but as I understand it, families everywhere could benefit from this time of coming together. And the reason why I said this time of coming together, I'm skipping a little bit. Once I got into my professional career, I spent a lot of times in schools around the country. And I can share with us right here, out of the funding, out of the new technology, the new books, one of the number one indicators of a great school and students doing well was parent involvement. Right. So to see so many of us here, to see so many of you here kind of asking about this new FAST test. We didn't have FAST assessments when I was coming up, right? Nobody cared how we thought. No, I know. But this is really, really good stuff. Right. So I wanted to share 2 different things. Right. But the first thing I'm going to share is going to be in the form of a competition. Right. So I'm going to say 3 things. And Cynthia, I hope this is okay because I don't got my little PowerPoints and slides, but I'm still going to do it anyway, right?
That's
all right.
fine.
So we're going to do this really, really quickly, okay? There are 3 questions I'm going to ask. Put your answer in the chat. It's a very, very simple answer. Do the first thing that comes to your mind. I'm not repeating the questions. You ready? This is parents and students, anybody that's on. All right? Ready? Here we go. Question number 1. Lisa's dad has 5 daughters. Aina, Ina, Ina, Ona. What's the name of the 5th daughter? Put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. Question number 2. You have 40 cents in your pocket. There are 3 coins. One of them is not a nickel. What are the 3 coins? Go. Put it in chat. Put it in chat. Put it in chat. Go, go, go. Quick, 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 quick. Final question, number 3. You have a big, heavy barrel full of water. What can you add to it to make it lighter? Go. Put it in the chat. Go, go, go. All right, let me see what you beautiful people came up with. This is how, Mr. Silas, this is how you tell the crazy people from the normal folks, right? This is it. This is the assessment right here. Malaysia, how many did you get right? What you think? You got a couple? All right. All right. All right. All right. So let me go over the answers real quick. You ready? Here we go. Because I know some of you guys didn't put nothing in there because you didn't want to be wrong. You didn't want to be crazy because Mr. Silas said y'all was going to be crazy. Don't worry about what Mr. Silas said. Y'all not that crazy. All right, here we go. Question number 1. Lisa's dad has 5 daughters. Aina, Ina, Ina, Ona. What's the name of the 5th daughter? Lisa's dad, Lisa's dad, Lisa's dad, Lisa's dad, Lisa's dad. Her name is Lisa. That's the name of the 5th daughter. So what happens is what we got caught up in the vowels, right? A-E-I, I know this my whole life. The vowels been the vowels been the vowels. Question number 2, in your pocket, 3 coins that total what? 40 cents. One of them is not a nickel. What are the 3 coins? What are the 3 coins? Well, let's get halfway there, right? Got to put a quarter in there. We know that. But if the second one is another quarter, we done overshot it. So we can do a quarter and a dime, right? That's 35. That's almost 40. So what do we use? A penny? What do we use? Another quarter? 3 coins in the pocket. One of them is not a nickel. You got a quarter, you got a dime, you have a nickel. The instructions weren't you don't have a nickel. Of the 3 coins, one of them is not a nickel, right? Number 3, right? Big heavy barrel of water. What do you add to it to make it lighter? I've heard some amazing responses to this. Wheels, all that sort of stuff. But if you add a hole to the heavy barrel, it lets the water out. Why do we go over this, right? We do this because those simple questions, those simple instructions are point blank obvious to us, or we get really, really stuck on it. And it's all a matter of perspective. So as educators, as parents, as administrators, right? When we are trying to bring out the best in the people that we're serving, bosses, supervisor, in our jobs, whatever it is, a lot of times the difference in that communication sequence is in the perspective. The problem is we get caught up because what I said was so plain. What I said was so simple. You should be able to understand it. Yes, it was simple. And even as simplistic as it was, there's still breaks based on perspective. And so kind of taking that as a truism and starting from that place, it improves our leadership. Well, one of the ways to improve that leadership, right, to help us gain perspective is becoming a different and better me. So I've been in the classroom. I taught on the college level from 2009 till about 2020-ish or so. So I got about 10 years, although it's college level, right? But it's classroom is classroom. Listen, you got 20, 30 people talking and 20, 30 people having excuses why they ain't turning in work. Classroom is classroom, right? But so I have some classroom experience. I have worked with administrators around Baltimore City, particularly. I was the parent of my kids. I was the president of the parent group. So I kind of understand from that point of view what this whole dynamic looks like, feels like, right? And then some work kind of around the country. What I've learned from leaders is the way that we bring out the best in the people that we're serving, whether that's our students or our children, right? Or our staff or our teachers or whomever it is that we are in a position to kind of be that caretaker type of role. The best way to bring out the best out of them is to become a different and better me. And that seems counterintuitive, right? Because leadership should be about how do I get better at telling you what to do in the way that you're going to do it. That's how we kind of before up to now understood what leadership, what parenting, right, is, what that's all about. But actually getting the best out of them changes as we become different and better, as we change and as we improve. I'm gonna give a very, very simple analogy. I know that makes sense, but I'm just gonna give one more to kind of batten down that comprehension, right? Think about objects on the bed. Okay, so you're sitting on the bed. There's objects, there's hair stuff and remote control stuff and toy and like all kinds of just stuff all around the bed. Because we sit on the bed, those things move, adjust, they roll, right? They kind of, whatever they do, just by us being us, not by us forcing, it's just the relation of those things to us. How do we get a different response out of those things? It doesn't make any sense to try to train them, to try to teach them. I want the TV remote to get happy and run over to me it doesn't make any sense, right? We understand it as it relates to inanimate objects, but the principles hold true. So if I want to change the response of the things that's already there, I change my approach. Maybe I go on the bed really, really fast, or I ease on it, or I flop down on it, right? Or I get in the gym and put on a whole lot of weight, super macho man, right? Or I become like this little shriveled up version of myself, whatever it is that changes me automatically without talking to them, without requesting them. My relationship to the inanimate things around me automatically changes. Does that make sense? Well, the principle holds true that as I change and develop and become, my relationship with those around me automatically changes to reflect the me that I am becoming. Right? So I had a slide for you guys. It was kind of cryptic and blurry. And then as it came into view, it was like going to be, I like competition. It was going to be a race to type the phrase that was kind of shining through. And that phrase was, getting better for me gets me better for everyone around. I'll say that one more time. Getting better for me gets me better for everyone around me. Right? And so it's kind of like a different spin on what leadership, management, parenting is all about. Like, how do I really accomplish this? Well, I learned 5 ways. I did a lot of traveling around the country, right? Over, I don't know, I started working in schools kind of around the nation in 2005. It was this little, okay, that sounds really shiny, right? Schools around the nation. Let me tell you what actually happened. It's true, but let me tell you how it came about. Did I say my wife has 5 kids? My wife has a lot of children. I don't know what's wrong with the lady. She got a lot of kids, right? Every couple of years, I turn around, another little kid in the house. I'm like, where these kids coming from, ma'am? Right? Nobody explained it to me yet. Okay, anyway, so we have 5 children. And when our oldest are twins, 17, Lee and Anthony, you think we would be done then, right? Nope, crazy people, right? Okay, so we got all the way up to 5. Well, when the oldest were very, very small, I was working at a nonprofit and I needed supplemental income, right? I was feeling like the stress of being a new dad. I was newly married. And I found this opportunity online. And it basically read like this. It was on monster.com. That's familiar, right? Monster.com. And the job description read like this. Do you like students? Are you funny? I was like, funny looking, like what you got? If you believe that you can be entertaining and talk to today's youth, we would love to pay you to do so. Send us a video of you talking about any topic for 5 minutes. And if you can hold our attention for 5 minutes, we believe that you can hold their attention. We like to, get to know you forward, right? I sent in a video about it. It was a lot of ups and downs around that. Eventually got the video in. Those people fell for it, invited me out. I certified on the material. And I started off being in some really, really, really like small, low level. And by low level, I mean like off in the sticks, back of the dirt road kind of. So maybe low level isn't the best word, but it wasn't Harvard, right? I didn't start off being in like blue ribbon kind of establishments. And I enjoyed being there because I learned about me and I learned about us together, right? Those experiences brought me here. From going around the country since about 2005, there are 5 ways that some of the best leaders that I've had the pleasure of being around say this is how you improve yourself to get the best out of your people. I'm going to go over those 5 ways and I'm going to get out of here, okay? Number 1, it's going to sound crazy, but I've gleaned this from some of the best executive directors, principals, heads of corporations in our nation, right? Some of those folks on our website, we'll get to that. They're not important right now. Here are the 5. The first one is counseling and therapy. Now, can you imagine being at a lunch table talking with the CEO and they talking to you about the importance of therapy? I didn't come from that world. I didn't come from where that was okay, right? I've heard it more than once. I put it in my book. That's the first thing. The second one is having a coach or mentor. So where a counselor or therapist helps us untangle where we've been so that we can understand why we operate, think, and look at. I can't stand a person with green shoes. Why? That comes from somewhere. How we interpret email and text messages comes from somewhere. The fact that we don't ever let our kids do, or we're very, very lax about them doing whatever, that comes from somewhere. Do we understand that? Doesn't mean we got to change it. It might be fine, but understanding it is vital. So the counseling and therapy gets us to untangle where we were to where we are. The coach or the mentor helps us identify a North Star, a goal, right? A mile marker, and then helps us mark out or measure out those steps to get to there, from where we are to get to there. Okay. So that's the second one. The third one, physical goals. Why are physical goals so important? I want you to think about when a lot of us were very young, how much we heard things like recess, recreation, PE, gym, how much that was a major part of growing up. Well, maybe 15-ish years ago, when education, maybe more give or take, when education became very much focused around that No Child Left Behind era and make sure that we pass certain scores. Some of the things that was done away with in a lot of schools, not everywhere, was the time wasters of spending so much recreational time. Well, what happens with that is that you create an unbalance. And so now we got full-time jobs. We know it 9 to 5. None of us, very few of us, sit in one seat from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. However, sometimes in educational settings, we want 9-year-olds to sit in that desk from early in the morning to middle of the afternoon, right? And so not having those breaks. So how do I get those people that I'm serving to adopt this mindset of having physical goals? By adopting them myself. That could be as simple as drinking more water, bed at a different time, waking up at a different time, going for a walk. This doesn't mean, oh, now I gotta join LA Fitness and sweat to the oldies. It could be. It could be that. Or it literally could be, this is what I'm doing. But as we change and become different and better with intention, we change our relationship with those around us. That's number 3. Number 4, I'm going to say this like a Jeopardy category, right? It's going to sound grammatically crazy. Books, audiovisual. And I say that because learning is learning is learning. And if we gain the content from our books via audio, Audible, YouTube, extended interviews with the author who's kind of explaining and expounding what's going on, we gain information. Now think about it like this, right? I'm gonna go back to like the exercise thing that I was just talking about. If we did the same type of exercise over and over and over again, that's great, right? But we wouldn't have what they call gains, right? You've heard of that word, gains. It's when we challenge ourselves in different ways do we achieve or create the opportunity for gains. It's true for these muscles. It's true for this muscle. Okay? So as my students, my staff, my teachers, whomever, my coworkers see me improving in these ways, it engenders the opportunity for them to do the same in a way that seems counterintuitive, right? Last one of the 5. Last one. Relax. I'm sorry. Leisure time, taking our vacation, right? PTO, time off. Our country, compared to other first world countries, don't you love these little nomenclatures? We do not, as a society, value vacation. Now, we value it when we want it, but there's like this underlying of I should request it off. I still should be near my phone. I still should be available. I can't take off too much time. I'll just let it accrue. I don't want to ask for the check version of it. I'll just lose some of it. Well, how do we teach those that we are serving, right, that are quote unquote under us, the value of working towards a goal and the reward of achieving that goal? Taking a load off, letting your hair down. If we don't embody that, how do we demonstrate it? I could see if this was just like one company or one state or one county. It's nationwide. right? That awkwardness of like not being on the job, somebody catching us not working, the appearance of that. It's a nationwide phenomenon. And as we get better at encouraging and achieving work-life balance, we'll see it in our students and our kids and our staff and our people, right? So those are the five. I'm gonna go over them backwards. Vacation and leisure, taking that personal time, expanding our mind, books, audio, visual. Physical goals, which can be as simple as drinking more water, whatever that looks like, or running a marathon, anything in between. Number four, having a coach or a mentor, somebody that we feel accountable to. We want to show them our best. That's who it needs to be. And then a counselor or a therapist. These can be paid and professional relationships and opportunities, or these can be informal that you set up within your own circle, right? But having them brings out the better us, which allows us to bring out the better them. Does that make sense? Ms. Hicks, that's what I wanted to share. I don't have all of the bells and whistles that I was going to share, but I appreciate the time. I value that you all are here. And again, if you want to stay in touch across all social media, I'm even on TikTok now. I'm on TikTok. But any Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, any of that stuff is Rodney C. Burris, right? RodneyCburris.com, info@RodneyCburris. And with that being said, thank you guys so much for allowing me to come and share this time with you as well.
Mr. Burris, I am so appreciative of you. First of all, for you to have just been in a car accident and to call me and say, I'm still going to be on, to me, that's the sign of a great leader right there. So thank you. Thank you for all the wisdom that you shared. I think one of the great things that you just said, though, too, was everyone has a different perspective and leaders need to try to become different and better. I think that was wonderful. So thank you for your wisdom and thank you for being here. We really appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. And get checked out at the doctor, please, after being in that accident. Seriously. Yeah. Okay, now what I would like to do is I really want to honor the students that are here. And we are going to have an award ceremony and the principals that are here will be able to name the students that have gotten A honor roll or AB honor roll. Ms. Kyle, do you have that PowerPoint by any chance?
Miss Jones still, she has it. I have a copy just in case her laptop goes out, but she does have it.
Oh, okay. Let me see if Miss Jones is
Yes,
still.
I am going to
She's-
share my
she's here.
screen
Oh,
right
okay.
now. Give me 1 second.
And I'm not sure how this is usually done. I guess, would it be Mr. Silas? I don't want to put you on the spot.
No problem. I definitely can speak for Bridge to Success,
Okay.
middle and elementary.
Let me say, I'm so happy to see Mr. Silas. He was my children's assistant principal when he was at Kirby. That was a little while ago.
That has been a few minutes. Okay, so the students made AB honor, straight A honor roll at Bridge to Success Middle, Alviana Clavel. And I just want to say a little special something about that student. Please lift her up in prayer. She had a major loss to her family, so I want to lift her up. Christopher Ayute, Christian Cooper, Jarvis Honester, Chicano Porter, Miles Shumo, Jordan Smith, and Jada Thornton. So these are students from St. Clair Evans, A. Philip Randolph, and from our West Side Middle site. Straight A's. And now students who are making AB honor roll, and this is may take a little bit longer. Definitely going to take a little bit longer. These are students listed here above. I'll go ahead and call the name: Joel Heath, Aslyn Hopkins, Tayara Johnson, Queen Jones, Julia Mills, Zane Morris, Henry Palmer, Romeo Roberts, Nathan Robinson, Malachi Vito, Kambu Bahugo. Okay, Nasir Warren, Kiara Williams, L'Oreal Baker, Mayana Bonner, Kurt Brewer, Keon Collins, Gay Doe, Zoe Glover, Armani McLeod, Quindell Purcell, DeAndre Tobler, Alejandro Vergara, Kavuo Vihugo, their sisters, Peyton Woody, Jocelyn Andrews, Kamara Baldwin, Prince Kiara Baldwin, D'Angelo Bright, Jakiria Dowdell, Micah Edwards, Carlia Freeman, Jeremiah Kirkland, Jacoby Lennox, Makisha Mann, Hunter Swafford, and Darius Watson. So those are students making A&B honor roll from all the sites. Congratulations to you.
Congratulations to all of our students. We are so happy for, the hard work that you've put in, and we wish you much continued success throughout the year. Straight A honor roll. Mr. Silas, would you mind doing the honors?
I will go ahead and pinch hit for BTS High since I just left. So Michaela Sadusky. And for AB honor roll for BTS High School, Anthony Baker, Alexa Bernardo, Kamora Marion, Dylan Croft, Ajiana Dixon, Ziana Filtador, okay, Veronica Futch, Shamar Howard, Mark James, Justin Kirkendall, Patrick Lindsay, Rodnika Morant, Kalis Peoples, Deshelle Reed, Jamaria Simmons, Sanaya Stallings, Jamon Ware, and Tanija Williams. Congratulations to you, BTS High School. Those students are on their way to getting their diplomas. And most improved students, Patrick Lindsay and Mark James.
Wonderful job. Thank you so much, Mr. Silas, for that presentation, and congratulations to all the students that made AB honor roll or were most improved. Continue to do exceedingly well. Great job. And now I'm not sure if Ms. Burney is able to speak at this time to close us out. Ms. Burney is the Executive Director of the Amistar Foundation. Ms. Burney, are you able to close us out? Okay, I think she had a radio interview that she had to get to, so I guess she wasn't able to get back on. But I do want to thank all the parents, all of the students that are on. Thank you for being here. I want to thank Mr. Silas, the assistant principal at St. Clair Evans Academy. I want to thank our presenters, Brandy Berry, Emily Collins, and our motivational speaker, Rodney Burris. Thank you so much for coming on and for celebrating with our students. I hope that you all have learned some things tonight. And if you have questions about any of the testing, please reach out to the Amistar Foundation, and the information is in the chat as well if you have further questions. Okay, And we will make sure that those who received A or A Beyond Honor Roll or Most Improved will receive their certificates next week at their schools. We'll make sure that we get those to the principals. So I would like to close out and just thank everyone. Look forward to working with you in the coming months. And I wish you all a very happy and safe Thanksgiving. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Ms. Hicks.
Yes.
Just wanted to let a parent know who asked a question. Unfortunately, the student did not make the AB honor roll that time. That doesn't mean that she can't make it now. And if they have any questions, please just stop by the office or drop me a line tomorrow.
Okay, that was a parent that did make the honor roll.
But that believe their child did, they can just reach out to me and just come see me tomorrow.
Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much for saying that, Mr. Silas. All right, everyone, have a wonderful evening and have a happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Have a great evening.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Ms. Hicks, I'm back.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was waiting in the end and I said, Ms. Burney, are you there? Did you hear me?
Oh, no, because I was doing that
Oh.
interview. I was on that interview.
Okay, I did say, hey, she had a radio interview. Yeah, so.
Yes, okay, no problem. How did everything else go?
It was good. So,
Good.
Mr. Burrs talked about 5 ways to improve yourself.
Okay.
So he said the 5 ways were counseling and therapy.
Mm-hmm.
He said that gets you from where you were to where you need to be.
Okay.
He said 2, have a coach or a mentor so that you can identify a goal. He said 3, physical goals. He said, believe it or not, he said, people wonder, well, why can't the kids sit still and listen? He said, you don't sit at your chair all day at your job. You move around a little bit.
Yeah.
He said, kids need that too.
Yes.
He said 4, books or audio visuals are key.
Okay.
He said, expand your mind.
Yes.
And the last thing he said, leisure time is important. He said that work-life balance is important.
Yes.
So
all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
yeah. But I was just happy that he, got on.
Yeah. I love it. And I was the ladies gave excellent information and it just kept me thinking. Remember way back when we had Project Reach,
Yes.
and we would teach those kids about the benchmarks, etc., teach the parents and the kids. If we don't do that, a lot of those kids are going to still be in the same grade, because if they are not proficient, they will not move to the next grade. It doesn't care if they did better. That matters not. Did they get here? If you didn't get here, it's over for you.
Yeah, and from what she said, 3rd grade, she said was key.
Yes.
To move on, and then the 10th grade.
And a lot of them won't be moving on, saying a lot of them will not be moving on. So,
well,
but great job, also great job, great job.
I just wish, I wish there was more students.
But see, Santa, it's right before Thanksgiving. So when the one in February, we'll know. You'll have them. It's okay. It's okay. Do you know that Duval County Public Schools sometimes doesn't have but 2 parents, if that? So,
but who was it that said it today? I'm trying to think. Was it DCPS? I think it was one of the DCPS people said, believe it or not, one of the most important things is parental involvement.
It is, but they're just not on there. But no, you did a great job. And I want to find a way to get those 2 ladies in another setting with parents and have them to talk the parents' language so the parents can understand. Because, you know, she's talking about rhetoric and things like that, which is good information, but they don't, I can tell you, they don't know what that means.
Yeah, you got to break it down for people.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I would love to find a way to get back with them again sometime.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good information. I just think that it was a lot because the math
Yeah.
kept going on and
Oh
on.
my God. Yes.
I'm telling you, I told Miss Copeland, I said 10 minutes each person, and that's it.
Yeah, that didn't happen, but it's okay because they
Yeah.
get excited because they probably don't get a chance to tell anybody. They probably don't get a chance to tell anybody.
I
So,
felt bad that I had to cut it in, but after 3 times, you know.
it was okay. It was all good. It was all good.
Yeah.
So, I wish I could have heard Mr. Burrs. Fully. I didn't get a chance to hear him fully.
Well, you know what? And I wish a larger group could hear him, Betty, because I don't know if you went online and saw his story.
I did.
But from talking to him, you know, he said he moved around a lot. They were homeless, you know, a little while.
Wow.
And just from talking to Darnell about how they met, I mean, not how
Yes.
they met, but one of the interactions that they had, he was already his mentor, but he drove over, he said, something possessed me. And I told him it was God to drive over to talk to him. And when he got over to his side of town where he was at, he said he looked and he said, come here. And he walked over to him and he said to him, I am so glad you came along at that very instant, because he said, I was getting ready to go buy drugs to make money.
Oh my gosh.
Or to sell drugs, I think.
Sell drugs.
That's what it was.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Cynthia. Just
and Darnell was like, that could have changed the trajectory of his life right there.
Yep. Because it would have been jail time.
Yeah.
It really would have been jail time. Wow. It's just our babies. And the fact that and listen at him now, I mean, geez.
Well, and he said, he goes, yeah, I went to Johns Hopkins, but he goes, there's always a backstory. You know, it wasn't like it just came, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
So.
I'm excited. I thought, as I said, tonight went really well. And I think that we could even try to find some ways between now and February to incorporate that math and, you know, the other piece in.
Okay.
Even if it's just, you know, calling the ones that they give you, you know, that may or may not be graduating or whatever, if any of them in the 10th grade, to try to help them or something, because I'm scared, Cynthia.
Well, in speaking with the assistant principal there at APR today, she said 20 kids have dropped out of Bridge to Success. Yeah. And she said it's just something to see